Hello and welcome. I am Scrapperlock, and this is City of Heroes. It's very significant that today's date is April 27th of 2019 because it's 15 years since City of Heroes launched, and it's almost 7 years, 6.5, since the game was shut down. Um, City of Heroes launched in 2004. It was followed up in 2005, about a year and a half later, with City of Villains. It was a pretty successful game in the West. It was originally produced by Cryptic Studios, and then when Cryptic moved on to Champions Online, it was taken over by Paragon Studios, which is mostly the Cryptic developers under another name and new leadership. And it was published by NCSoft, which is a Korean company that produces multiplayer games. It ran for a long time. It was wildly successful by any reasonable standard because it went for so many years. And then in 2012, NCSoft, for no reason anybody knows for sure, they've never really said for sure, shut the game down. And it's been gone ever since, or so we thought. But it turns out that somebody smuggled the source code out of Paragon Studios before everything shut down and got them to a guy named Leandro, who figured out how to set up his own server and started modding it, and actually has been running City of Heroes on his own server for the last 6.5 years. Eventually, a guy named Destroyer outed the secret server a couple of weeks ago, and there was a big uproar, and in response, Leandro released the code. And so now there are people starting to make servers all over the place, and two of them have popped up, named Torchbearer and Excelsior, and this is the Excelsior server. I want to do a tutorial on how to build a character and how to get into the game. I've already got this character, Silver Phoenix. As you can see, she's a martial artist, and she's going to be our main character for this playthrough. But I'm a real dork, and I recorded the whole half hour it took me to set her up and get her through the tutorial, talking away, explaining things, etc. And I didn't have my mic plugged in correctly, and it didn't record any sound at all. So now I have to do it over. So what I'm going to do is break this up into a couple little increments. I'm going to just do a short 10 or 15 minute video where I talk about the history of the game and show you how to build a character. And then once we get to the tutorial, I'm going to cut the video. I'm going to do the tutorial with this second character that I'm about to make. And then after we're done with that, we're going to switch to Silver Phoenix, and then we're going to play Silver Phoenix as the main character. One of the things I want to do with this playthrough is have it be a tutorial, not just in the tutorial part of the game, but actually, just as we go, talk about what they call theory crafting. So, what are enhancement slots? How do they work? How do you build a character? What do you need to have a soloable character? What do you need to bring to a team? All that kind of stuff. I'm going to try to sort of give examples, and I'm actually quite an unconventional player. A lot of the stuff that's conventional wisdom, frankly, I think is BS, and you might need to do what they say to be successful in hardcore PvP, which is player versus player, but to just play the game and get through your storylines and do your missions, there's a lot of flexibility, and you kind of build the character however you want. So the first thing you do in City of Heroes is you create a character. One of the differences, you'll notice there's 1,000 character slots, which is kind of insane. I can't imagine anybody ever using a tenth of that. In the original game, you could only have 8 characters per server. So basically what you see here would have been it, but you can actually keep going here and make lots and lots of characters. So I'm going to create a new character right here. And this again is new. All these things on the top didn't exist. You just had next buttons in the original launch. When the game launched, you could only play a hero. There were 5 classes or archetypes of heroes: the tanker, the scrapper, the defender, the controller, and the blaster. Then they made City of Villains, and they made 5 different archetypes that could only be villains: the corruptor, the dominator, the mastermind, the stalker, and the brute. And for a while you had to be a villain if you were a brute, you had to be a hero if you were a scrapper. But now what they have is you can actually make any archetype and have them be a hero or a villain. And so that's what we're going to do. You can also go rogue, and this is where you become a character in an alternate dimension, the Praetorian version of Earth, kind of, and you stay on Pretoria for 20 levels doing either hero or villain things, and then when you get to level 20, you decide to be a hero or a villain, and then you go from there, which is pretty cool, and I'm going to do someday, but not today. So today we're going to pick a hero, and the first choice you make is your origin. You can be either science-based, mutation-based, magic-based, technology-based, or natural-based. This really doesn't have any effect on the game at all. It determines what flavor of enhancements you can put on your powers, but the enhancements are all the same. So a mutation accuracy enhancement does exactly the same thing for a mutation character that a technology accuracy enhancement does for a tech character. So it really doesn't matter. It's all just flavor, and it's what you want to do. Now the character I'm going to create, if I can get it, is going to be States Girl. States Girl is derived from a feature character in the game, the main character, Statesman. So if you read the lore of the game, Statesman is a superhero that's been around since World War II, and he's sort of this this universe's Captain America. He's invulnerable and super strong, so she's going to be kind of like that. But he's been around for a long time. And so the origin of this character is that she's a girl, and she's got a big crush on him, and she's been a huge fan of his, and she's kind of like Buddy from The Incredibles. She's his biggest fan, and she kind of wants to be a sidekick, and so she dresses up as him, and she cosplays as him. And then she finally decides she's going to fight villains, and she goes and she lives in Founders Falls. And if you know anything about Founders Falls, which is a high-level zone, there's this villain science group called the Cray Technologies Group. And the Cray are scientists, and they do evil experiments. And so they capture her when she tries to go out and fight them, and they bring her to their base, and they offer to give her powers in exchange for her doing things for them. So initially she agrees, and they do these horrible, torturous experiments that do give her powers, but the pain basically breaks her mind. And she breaks free and goes back to her home, but she's convinced that she used to be Statesman's sidekick and girlfriend. And so she thinks he broke up with her, and in her mind, she thinks she's his sidekick. Now, nobody else thinks she was, but she's under a delusion. And we'll have to see what happens if anybody challenges the delusion. But I'm not going to be playing her right away. We're just going to use her as a character design. So we're going to call her States Girl. And one of the things I like, which wasn't true, in the original game, you'd get all the way through the creation, then you'd put your name in and find out it was taken. Here, I was able to find out that States Girl with no dash was taken. So States Girl without a dash isn't, and now if you see here, the name is reserved. So while I'm going through character creation, nobody else can come along and steal this name from me, which I really like. So now we have the choice of what kind of character we're going to be. Tanker, melee damage, range damage, crowd control, support, and pets. So let's start with tank, but she's not going to be a tanker, she's going to be a brute. So brutes have a survivability of 8 and a melee damage of 9. Or maybe I should make her a tanker. I think maybe I will make her a tanker. So tankers are a very high survivability. They have a huge amount of defense. They do a little bit of melee damage. They have crowd control in the sense that they can taunt, but nothing else, really. And so we're going to make a tanker. And we'll say next. And then our power sets are going to be invulnerability. So she can resist physical damage and so forth. So the way this works is every character has a primary power set and a secondary power set. And what they don't show you here, because they don't want to confuse you, is all powers have access to a third group of powers called pool powers. Pool powers are things like travel powers, flight and super speed, boxing, and things like that. So the way this works is your best power is your primary power, and it operates at 100% power. So the invulnerability power is operating at 100%. So if we look at resist physical damage, this is a passive defense. It's always on. It costs no endurance. It's just there. It becomes integral to your character. Let's imagine it gives you 10% resistance. If it were, instead of a primary power, a defensive secondary like on a Scrapper, Scrapper's version of resist physical damage would only do about 7% resistance. It's about 70% as effective as a primary. And then your pool powers, if there was a pool power resistance, it would be maybe 5% resistant, right? So your primary powers are always the best version of the power. The secondary powers are the second best version. And then if there's a pool power other than travel powers, it's like the third best version, right? So boxing, which is a punch from the fighting power pool, doesn't do as much as secondary punch from the tanker pool, which doesn't do as much as primary punch from a Scrapper pool, if that makes sense. So we're going to take invulnerability, we're going to pick resist physical damage, and then our secondary power is going to be super strength, because that's what Statesman is like, so we want her powers to be like his, and the only option we have is jab. So if you look at this, these are all the powers you can take. but you can't take them all at the beginning. You can only take the first 2 at level 1. Then I believe Dull Pain unlocks at level 2. This one unlocks at level like 4 or 6. This one at 8 or 10, and so on down the line. These unlock at 26 and 32. So it takes a while to get all your powers. The last secondary power unlocks at 38. So basically the game was capped at level 40 when it came out, and it took you to the end of the game to get all your powers. So anyway, we start with resist physical damage and jab. And we're moving on to the next, and this is going to be a female character. She's a teenager, so we're going to make her a little short, make her a little skinnier. She's not super... I want her to be athletic, but not super athletic. Okay, and maybe a little skinnier, a little shorter. There we go. Alright, so I saved this character, so let's see if I can load it. States girl. And it's not coming in. Interesting. Huh. Okay, so we're going to have to create her. So we're going to make her a... So let's clear everything. So she's a custom character. So now we're going to have to figure out how to do this. So this is going to take longer than I was hoping. Alright, so I want her to have a helmet, because Statesman has a helmet. And her head shape will be average 1, and her face, she's young, so we're going to do a young face. Because again, she's a teenager. I thought there was a young face. Let's keep going. There we are. That looks pretty good. And then her helmet will be that one, which I like. Colors, she's red, white, and blue like Statesman, so dark blue, maybe that color, and kind of red. Well, actually, we're going to be blue and white for now. Fortunately, I've done this a couple times, so I have an idea what I want to do with this. She's going to be doing the bodysuit armor. Looks good. And her decoration will be stars. That. Right? Because Statesman has that. Kind of, her chest detail will be a symbol of a star. I think it was this one. Yep. Wow, I remembered it. Okay, so also we're going to give her shoulders. She's going to do Vanguard 2, I think. Yes, I like that. And then her gloves. So we're going to do Vanguard for a lot of this. So I got to just find it. Sorry, it's taking a bit. I really didn't want to have to go through all this. I thought I was going to be able to load her costume, but it apparently didn't work. There we go. Vanguard. Okay. And now her belt is also Vanguard. So I'm just kind of going with the Vanguard for everything because it looks kind of cool. I just gotta find it. There it is. Okay. And then her lower body will also be bodysuit armored, and it's gonna have the star. Right, so we've got stars on her side here, right, going down her legs. And then her boots will also be Vanguard. How am I missing that? No. Boots. Maybe it's over here. Yep. Vanguard with pad. That looks good. Nothing on her back. She's not doing any auras. She's not going to have a tail. Alright, so now I just got to deal with the colors. So right now everything's linked. I'm going to unlink it, and now we can individually color things. So for example, the helmet, I want this to be red. Okay, and then the upper body, the chest detail, I want this blue to be red, right? Because red, white, and blue. The shoulders, I want the blue to be red. So she's got red shoulders. The gloves, I want the blue to be red. Right, so this is a red, white, and blue character. And then the boots, I want the blue to be red. I think that looks pretty damn good. So I'm pretty happy with that. Now the other cool thing is you can do, you can actually create your own auras, right? That's what it looks like by default, but we want her to be red, white, and blue kind of, so we're going to switch the pink to, I think, blue, and the purple to a light red. And then all of her powers are going to be more red, white, and bluish. Okay. And then if we look at her punches, it's the same thing. There they should be. Here we go. And yeah. So if we look at her punches, they should have... And her foot stomp, what's really cool is you can change it to a ground punch, which I think is much cooler looking than a foot stomp. So all of her powers are now going to be kind of red, white, and blue. And I'm going to go ahead and save it. I don't know why. So it knows it's there, but it wouldn't load it before. Interesting. Alright. And now we say next. And then I'm not going to bother with her origin. We're just going to say next and play the tutorial, and I'm going to cut it here. And I'll see you in the tutorial.